So I have a short talk today. I'm supposed to keep this on the short end of things. Pretty helpful. Yeah, they're Velcroed. For your safety. We can clean up later. Come relax. Come chill. This applies to you too, China. It definitely applies to you. 100%. So I'm going to try to keep this quick, but I want it to be very conversational. So if I don't have feedback from you guys, it's going to be really quick and really useless, okay? So the title, I have named this like 10 seconds ago, Execute Your Own Workouts. And I think this is a really important topic for a lot of you here and for everybody who follows Misfit or any other program for that matter, because so many people get caught up in what we write down on the blog or in someone's programming blocks as gospel. And they stick to it. Even if you go to an affiliate class, you look at the workout, you're willing to do what's written on the board, and most people are willing to put their head right through the wall to get it done as fast as possible. But the question is that the most efficient way, smartest way, and effective way to actually get fit and improve within the sport or just in your lifestyle of trying to be a fitter person? And the answer is typically no. So a lot of times people ask, what's the secret sauce to Misfit? What makes you guys so good? And in the past I've said there's no secret sauce. But the more I think about it, I think I found the secret sauce. And I'm going to explain it to you guys best I can, but like I said, if I don't get feedback from you guys, specific examples, how you approach your training day within the context of your workouts, this will all go right over your head and be completely useless. So what we're going to talk about today is how to break down each part of the blog, things we see commonly, whether it's our programming or again, someone else, and how we can make them a little more specific to your needs. So it doesn't mean you have to have individualized programming that is very specific to you. We know that can be helpful in long-term progress, but we also know that there are lots of downfalls to training by yourself. Gabe talked about a bunch this morning about how having everything, doing everything on your own can typically trap you in your own world. You have no context to what's going on outside that world. You don't know if you're truly bringing it or not that day because there's no one else doing it with you. So training alone is very dangerous. It can be quite unproductive. Training with other people and doing things that are similar and being able to kind of get that atmosphere is extremely productive in a lot of ways, both mentally and physically. So the first thing I want to jump right into, and we will go in order, not necessarily the order of what's most important, but just the order of how I want to break things down. So warm-ups. Does everyone here follow at least some Misfit workouts or be an affiliate member or anything like that with CrossFit MF? Yes, everybody? Anyone not? And that's fine if you're not. No worries. So every day we write a warm-up for the blog. And the warm-ups are very ho-hum. They're not special. Okay, the only goal of the warm-up is to get people moving. For years, we had an issue with athletes who would come into the gym, see the workouts. There was no warm-up on the blog for years, and they would take the first piece and treat that as they're getting started. So no stretching, no mobility, no primer, no heart rate spike, nothing. They just would go into their bitch work or whatever was the simplest, and that would be the first piece to get them moving for the day. Not smart, not effective, not a good use of your time, not a good use of your training. So we started adding warm-ups, and they are specific to the workouts of the day, but they're not special. They're very generic, and the point is just to warm up and target certain muscle groups that we expect you to use quite a bit on that training day. So for instance, if we're going to do some back squats, and that might be the first piece, I may throw wall balls in there just to increase your range of motion as you continue to move through maybe 2-3 sets of wall balls. Everyone knows when they get to their third set, they can finally squat ass to grass. But before then, their first squat of the day is barely hitting parallel for a lot of people, right? So we get to warm up a lot of areas. We do things like good mornings if we're going to deadlift. We do lunges. We get on rowers, bikes, skiers. We jog to get our heart rate up and to get our blood pumping. Really simple shit, really simple stuff, right? But it doesn't necessarily fit all of you individually. So is there anything that somebody does on a regular basis, probably every training day, that they feel like they have to do in order to feel right to start exercising? China.
Yeah, I row for 3 to 5 minutes at like 45 seconds moderate, 15 seconds hard, or something like that, 40 seconds, 20 seconds. To kind of get my heart rate up a little bit, I do the couch stretch for 1 minute on each side, and I also do like either with a band or a PVC pipe 10 shoulder rolls.
And why do you do that stuff?
Because my knees always ache, my hips are always tight, and my chest is always pretty tight. And those three things, at least for me, make me feel like my joints are lubricated no matter what I'm doing. Whether it has a squat or not, whether it has an overhead or not, I literally do that every single day, every single day.
Sucks getting old, doesn't it?
Shit. Don't worry about it.
I feel you. I feel you. Every day. I have stuff I do every day too. Anyone else have something that they do every day?
I do banded stuff to warm up my QL and my glutes. It's the same exact routine every single time, no matter what I'm doing.
And that's what I'm asking for. Same exact stuff. Things that you know work for you specifically. What else? Jump right in, Breeze. I'm just kidding. I pointed at him and then you. No, I'm just teasing. Go. No, go for it. I want to hear it.
200-meter run was like until I, it just wakes my body up, and I, over the winter I lost sort of that, but I remember last year was every time I got there I had to do a couple of them just to wake my body up.
And you've gone through like a huge transformation in the past year and a half, we'll say?
Be a year.
Just 1 year.
It's been a year almost.
Yeah. And what things do you think have been leading to the most like consistency to your fitness? So there's certain things that you do outside of adding that 200-meter run that allow you, because you started CrossFit later in life than a lot of the kids you look around and see here. And so we get, well, I say we, like I'm lumping myself in you, feel beat up the first few weeks, few months, and you probably question whether it was something that is maintainable, right? Right?
Yeah, the first 2 months it was whether or not I was going to stay or not. But I don't know, just staying after class and shit that, I needed to work on. I was weak on, and whether it just be, standing on my hands against the wall or whatever it is.
And we'll talk about that and accessories, so awesome. Thank you.
Voodoo floss, cross-up symmetry.
Yeah.
Foam roll before I get to the warm-up.
Cool. And that's plenty of examples. So we don't have to beat it to death. In warm-ups, you can do what's written, okay? And that can be enough for a lot of you guys, especially some people who have better mobility, better stability, just are recovering better than others, so they always feel better when they get in the gym, have a healthier lifestyle outside of the gym. Other things you can throw in to warm-ups, really light barbell work, skill work. Things like snatch balance, hang snatch, working on front rack position, front squat, back squat, whatever. You can really move through any barbell range of motion with an empty or very light bar and practice the actual patterns of it during a warm-up. And you can do it. You can spend a lot of time doing that, and that goes a long way. Even if it's not the lift that you might be doing that day, it might, starting from the ground and working up and ending at some kind of snatch balance complex. Like you can imagine how well that would warm up your entire body and get you prepared for the day. You can do things like you can add in strict gymnastic stuff. So if that's something you're struggling with, either pressing or pulling, pull-ups, dips, push-ups, handstands, whatever, handstand walking, that's a skill you can add in. All these things that don't take a ton of extra time to warm up, but things that can be applied in as pseudo accessory pieces, but also kind of, again, get your blood pumping, get your pull ready, get your push ready for something that may be a little more intensive that's coming down the road. All those things can be added in to a warm up as long as you don't make something that's 30 minutes long and is adding an insane amount of volume to your training day. That's not the point. But if you feel better doing 3 sets of 5, 4 sets of 5 strict pull up as high as you can before you do a 21-15-9 with chest to bar in it, then do it. Okay, add that in, make that a regular thing you do. You must have some kind of story of shit you add in all the time.
Lost my ankles every single day.
Every day.
Yeah, I have to do it, otherwise I just can't move very well. I mean, I'm a great mover anyways, but I don't floss my ankles before class. Like, I just feel terrible, and more often than not, lose the calf pulls if I don't. So every single day I get here, get in the bike for a few minutes, and floss both sides every day.
Awesome. Very nice. Yeah.
I combine the whole mindfulness and warm-up together. And for me, it's back on the floor, legs up on the wall, various movements of the legs.
Very provocative.
And I can see where it should be. And, just like close your eyes, not look at anything but the ceiling, and just kind of like, all right, what is today going to be like? What's this going to be? So,
do you walk yourself through the whole class in your head before you do it? Visualize?
I purposely go to I start at 5 o'clock while the 5 o'clock class is going, and then participate in the 6 o'clock class.
Yeah.
Just so I have a good hour of measured mobility. And again, watching and how it's all going to come together, watching some of my fellow athletes go through their workout, just kind of cheering them on, and then just kind of taking it in. How am I going to approach this? it's 2 hours for me.
Right.
I can't do an hour. It's 2, you know.
That's nice. I mean, that is somewhat of a luxury for some people don't have 2 hours, but that's nice that you can maximize your time at the gym like that. So good. So any questions on warm-ups, things that should or maybe should not be in there, things you can add, things you should add? Yes. Yes, Kenzie, yes.
I just have a question.
Okay, I love your questions.
For the greater good.
Yeah.
How important is warming up? Like, what if you don't have time? Should you just skip warming up and go right to the lift?
Her question is, what if you don't have time? Do you just skip warming up and go straight for the lift?
I'm not asking for a friend. Asking for a friend.
No. Hell no. No, it's not worth it. So if you don't have time, you didn't prioritize your training day correctly, and you need to cut a piece of your volume out and make sure that you prep yourself for the pieces that you can squeeze in. If you have 30 minutes at the gym that day, maybe sit on a bike and pedal for 25 of it and call it a day. So you might build into a longer endurance piece and call the first 5 to 7 minutes your warm up, and then build into a pace you're gonna hold. But you don't just jump right into, you don't just walk into the gym, throw 135 on the bar, start back squatting, throw 225 on the bar, back squat, now you're at 315. That you're asking, at least in the long run, you're asking for trouble building those sort of habits. Like, you will be that type of athlete that is like, oh, I can't do this because my knee hurts. I can't do this, my low back's always bothering me. That's the sort of stuff that will build in a very short amount of time if you are that sort of athlete. You know the answer to this already. I think you're just bringing it up for the group, obviously, because we've talked about this at great length.
I'm just asking because I feel like even whenever it is needed, I don't get nearly as much out of the piece because I'm fighting because my heart rate hasn't spiked.
Right.
Like, I'm not warmed up, and so my lifts are shitty. So
Yeah.
I mean, like, I feel a significant difference. Like, I know personally, whenever I actually do warm up, then like, oh, I'll just warm up as I go. Like.
And one thing we know for a fact about CrossFit is that once we have some experience, we thrive after that first 5, 10, maybe for some 15-minute window of intensity. And the reason we know that, we know it by a shit ton of anecdotal evidence, but we still know it. Just look at the open workouts where we pound ourselves into the floor and then go and PR our lifts right after. It doesn't happen in any other sport, but it happens here. So if we treat our warm-up with some real intent, add a little bit, ramp up the intensity, do a primer, do some rep accumulation where the last round is maybe a little faster than the first two, we will get ready to be more effective in our workouts. We will lift heavier, we will push harder. We're not gonna fatigue ourselves in a warm-up. We're only just scratching the surface of getting ready to actually kick some ass for the day. So it's a really good point. Anyone hit some insane lift during the chest of our snatch workout a couple years ago? How about the clean after the front squat, dumbbells? I'm not seeing very many hands. You guys just a bunch of weak. Yeah, did anyone do it? All right, better, thank you. What'd you say?
No, I'm great.
Yeah. Me too. I was happy. Okay, enough of that shit. Moving right on to lifts. This is a lot more complicated, but also a lot more simple at the same time, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So lifting cycles can be very specific to the person, and styles of lifting should definitely be very specific to the person. And what I mean by that is we all have different mechanical advantages and disadvantages. There's nothing we can do about these things. The length of our levers dictate the style of lifter that we're going to be and the style of lift that we're going to excel at. Shorter lifters with smaller levers, guess what they get to do better? Let's guess. How about squat, right? If you don't have to go as far, you can build a whole lot more bulky muscle on a shorter length of bone, right? And you can squat further, squat heavier, because you don't have to squat further than somebody who's Sherb's height per se and has to go all the way down, all the way. Well, you're all the way down is not that low, but you get my point. Let's take Brandon, for example. Where's Brandon? Is he hiding out? He's not even here. Brandon, super powerful kid, super strong athlete. A lot of you guys probably watched what he could do at regionals. Extremely, extremely talented. He'll probably never squat or even come anywhere near 500 pounds his entire life. He's mechanically disadvantaged to squat that low and stand up from that depth with that much weight on his back. It's just, he would have to sacrifice all other parts of his game and focus on that to get to that point. And that's not what we're gonna do with a CrossFitter. And on the contrary, we have someone like Sherb who is built to pull, okay? His long levers, the length of his limbs allow him to gain so much leverage over the bar, he can pull a whole house. If we take Moran over here and we ask it, you know, what do you prefer, squatting or pulling?
Squat.
Okay, and why would that be the case?
Shorter, compact.
Right, more compact levers, so he can squat a hell of a lot more and he can pull. Now, these are, I mean, I'm sorry if I just burst your bubble and you had some big ambitious goal about your numbers, but this is the way physics works in a really crude level, okay? So based on that, we can decide, we can take a line that we want to take when we start to pick a program. So things we can do to kind of change things up. You guys have noticed if you followed the blog, we start mixing between more powerlifting and Olympic style lifting when we talk about squatting, deadlifting, and pressing. And we do that to try to engage the most musculature we can at different points of the year so that you don't ever kind of hit a wall and stop making progress. We can make progress or stop making progress a couple different ways. One way can be just the way we move. We can absolutely hit our upper limits because we move like shit and we don't make any noticeable changes and we're unwilling to back the weight down or the percentages down to correct these and make a big difference. This is extremely, unbelievably common in our sport. Like, to the point where it's frustrating me thinking about all the Instagram videos of people box squatting currently. How many people are in a box squat cycle? Right, a lot of you. How many people took the time with an empty bar to truly master the box squat? Watched all the videos we put out there, watched some pro power lifters, 1, 2, okay? And did anyone think that they are now an expert at box squatting? Probably not, right? So at least you did your due diligence, but there's still a ton to be practiced, a lot to be desired, and you should continue to watch those videos, clean stuff up, film yourself, and attack that. That's part of executing your own workout. Those who decided to just overload the bar, which is part of the reason we're doing it, and do this, box squat, we're not getting anything. We're not loading any of our posterior chain. We're not learning how to move correctly, and we're just trying to show off for Instagram. Well, to me, you look like an asshole. To other people, you might look really impressive because you put 100 pounds more than your traditional squat on your back, but we're not executing and we're not actually going to get stronger in the long run. In fact, we're just beating the shit out of our joints and putting ourselves in compromising positions that will have a negative effect on us in the long run. So when we choose our lifts and we choose how to attack it, yes, we have a certain system that's up on the blog that we think would work for the general population, but don't be afraid to stray slightly from that and make a change. If you're having issues at a certain point in a cycle with a conventional style deadlift, you have two options. You can either take the weight off, back the percentages down, and take a good hard look and have an assessment at how you're actually lifting, get some feedback from coaches, training partners, whatever, and try to rebuild back up and ignore the numbers on the blog and work on your own stuff. Or you can switch the style and try to improve by pulling a different style, squatting a different style, changing it up if something's not working. Being a complete robot and sticking to our guidelines, which is what Misfit Athletics blog is. It's a guideline, it's a template to be successful in the sport. It's not all the answers, and it's certainly not specific to any one person in this room. Be flexible, be willing to change, and be willing to work on the things that are holding you back, okay? But keep in mind, there are going to be certain advantages and disadvantages we all have. Maximize the advantages and minimize the discouragement you get from your disadvantages. Does that make sense? I get that's very general, but it has to be because I'm talking to people who all have different leg lengths, arm lengths, fibia, tibia, you name every bone in your body, and it's different than the person sitting next to you. And that comes into effect when we lift heavy. Fair? Okay. Questions about lifts, when we should switch things in, when we should take a break, when is it too heavy, when is it too light?
So if I look at, a week of programming, let's say, and I know that there's just certain days or times when I'm not going to be able to fit everything in, should the emphasis then be on, should I maybe skip some of the Olympic lifting stuff, which I'm more comfortable with, and focus on the deadlift, which I suck at, and cut those pieces out and focus on that?
So a way that could be something you do, a way that pops into my head that you could approach it. Let's say you had 45 minutes in the bank to hit both lifts, okay? That's what you've allotted yourself for that time. And normally you chop it down the middle, we'll say 50 minutes for math's sake, 25 minutes on each lift. So maybe the deadlift's a major problem for you, right? And you're supposed to snatch that day, and the snatch is going really well. So maybe you allot yourself something like 30 of the 50 minutes on the deadlift, and you do a super detailed warm-up. You really work with an empty bar or light bar through positions for 3, 4, 5 sets so you're feeling really comfortable. You take your time building up to your percentages, and when you get to your percentages, you get really fired up, hit them as perfect as you can, you're filming them, you're getting feedback, you're getting just pumped up and ready to lift as perfect as you can. You have all that energy, all that focus on 3x3 deadlift, right? You've taken 30 minutes to hit the best 3x3 you can, and it's the best you've ever felt deadlifting. That's a win. Even if that means you don't even get to your percentage in the snatch, maybe you go through a couple warm-up sets, you work up to a heavy triple for the day within 2-3 sets, that's good. Kind of a skill session almost, kind of a range of motion thing. Your focus is on the deadlift where you're struggling. That's where your time should have been spent. That's where you made noticeable change. That's a winning session right there. Does that make sense? You can totally cut it out too, but if you get in the habit of doing that, eventually you take for granted the skills that you have in the snatch in this example, and then you start to get a little rusty, and your 1 rep max is more like 90% is all you're getting until you start to build that back up. So you can't ever sacrifice something completely to build on something else. We always have to be adding to the entire skill set. The whole tool belt has to be intact, but you can certainly prioritize your focus and your energy into something that needs to be changed drastically. That's how I would always think about it.